So my name is Angel Rivera, developer advocate for CircleCi. And I've been doing this role now with CircleCi for about 3 years, a little over 3 years. And it's a fun role. What I get to do is speak to folks like yourselves about how you're using technology, understanding how you're using those technologies and some of the struggles or obstacles that you face with technologies and stacks, and maybe even some of the cloud providers that you're using in the day-to-day. If anybody wants to reach out to me after this talk or have any questions, my Twitter handle is @punkdata, and my GitHub handle as well is punkdata. So yeah, if you have any questions, something I maybe not covered or wasn't clear, please feel free to reach out, and we can have those conversations. So real quickly, I want to talk about CircleCi, just kind of level set everybody about who we are, what we do. Essentially, our mission is very simple. We want to make developers' lives easy, right? And we want to help them deliver their code as quickly as possible. And the way we do that is by providing a continuous, we call it a continuous delivery platform, similar to other platforms out there. But we've been around for quite some time, since 2011. Currently, I just learned this. I was on vacation last week and came back, and just in the past month, we've hired a few more people, and we're currently at 630. When I started, we were at somewhere around 120. 3 years ago. So the company is growing fast, and we're doing many innovative things. We're across 5 continents. And one of the fun facts about CircleCi is we re-architected the platform in 2017, and we launched CircleCi 2.0, which is a complete rewrite from ground up. The previous version of the product was great for, things happening in 2011, but we quickly realized that we needed to modernize and add a couple of capabilities that were relevant in today's modern cloud native environment. Currently, we build 3 million builds per day. We execute 3 million plus builds per day on the cloud platform, which is essentially, I'll get into what that is and the differences between our cloud and server product. But currently, we're the world's largest shared CICD platform, and we're really good at having that multi-tenancy, right? Very secure, very consistent experience. The platform is always up and running, and helping developers, again, to release their code as quickly as possible. The platform is framework agnostic, meaning if you want to integrate into any type of operating system, any cloud provider, or you leverage any kind of online cloud service, the platform is unopinionated and allows you to do pretty much anything you can imagine. And so you can take your workloads from maybe a local CICD platform and easily implement them in our system with, almost seamlessly in most cases. And again, right, the company is all about helping developers, build their software quicker and reliably. So I like this diagram because it kind of shows where CircleCi sits in a tool chain. As you can see to the left, we have more of the continuous integration portion, right? So that's where developers are creating code or modifying code, and then they're implementing it through a Git push, right, system. And then CircleCi sits in the middle, kind of orchestrating all the automation to build artifacts, or create configuration files for your artifacts, testing your software. And then you also have the capabilities to deploy that software and release it, which is where you get to the right side of this diagram, right, where we're shipping to production. This is a nice diagram as well of how continuous delivery sits in the middle, and all the activities that developers perform. To the left again, where we have that code and collaboration, right? So that's part of the continuous integration concept is, not only are you writing code, you're pushing it so that your teams can understand what an individual developer is doing, and then kind of, be aware of the changes that are occurring or coming their way, right? So the idea there is to eliminate or prevent these merge conflicts that we all hate, right? And often encounter. And we're trying to minimize that, right, with continuous integration. And then to the right, you have obviously, when you go down to the bottom where the CircleCi logo is, you can see that it's orchestrating things such as the artifact management, right, build automation, your test automation. If you're building the containers, right, for deployments to maybe a Kubernetes cluster, some sort of container infrastructure. Again, CircleCi is there to handle all that when the code changes. And then finally, right, you have that kind of runtime or deployment type of activities. Not only are we deploying it, but post-deployment, right? You can use CircleCi to leverage CircleCi to monitor those deployments and ensure that the services you're deploying are actually functioning per your requirements. And not only can you do this runtime monitoring implementation on CircleCi automatically, you can also leverage your existing tools. So if you're using something like Datadog or AppDynamics or whatever to monitor your systems, right? You can integrate that into your CircleCi CICD pipeline. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how the industry is performing today or operating today. Developers are on the hook now for delivering software as quickly as possible. Obviously, this is due to all the innovative technologies and services that are coming online or emerging throughout I would say the past couple of years, making things super easy to collaborate and integrate and produce those efficiencies where developers are now able to quickly either build something from scratch and then have it deployed within a few weeks versus a few years. Like when I started in this business decades ago, it took a while, right, to get the code that I was writing actually deployed. In some cases, it was years, weeks, months to years. It was very rare that we got code deployed in weeks. But today, there's multiple deployments going on, right, in one day. Could be some companies are doing thousands of deployments every day, which is a good thing, right? There's nothing worse than having your code sit for weeks at a time and then have to deploy it maybe a month or two later and have all kinds of merge conflicts and issues that you have to go and resolve, which could have been resolved earlier. In any case, again, speed is very critical these days. And at CircleCi, we've kind of boiled down the elements of speed and the criticality of it to two measurements, right? One is obviously the time to deploy, so how long it takes us to get changes out to your customers, and then the frequency of deployments, right? How many times per week or even days do you push changes to your customers? This is some results from an internal study that we did at CircleCi based off of the performance of our customers. So, since we're running everyone's builds on our platform, we have a lot of metadata and metrics, right, that we've calculated, composed based off of the performance of the system and the actual builds that are occurring. So as you can see here, right, we have a metric here for the dramatic reduction of time to deploy. At the 5th percentile, it's somewhere between, it's at around 30 minutes, right, average. And then if you go to the 95th percentile, you can see some developers or some companies are deploying within 2 minutes of, code changes or a push, which is amazing. I mean, I can't stress enough how I look at these numbers and I just, like I said, go back to when I was writing software just a few years ago. Even there was no way we were deploying code at 2.7 minutes, right? It just wasn't happening. Now, if you look over to the right, you have a dramatic increase of frequency of deployment. again, the 5th percentile is a 2x factor. But if you look at the 95 percentile, it's a 42x increase of frequency of deployment, and this is weekly. So that's huge numbers. And a lot of our customers are seeing the value in leveraging CircleCi's automation, the platform, and all the capabilities that we have in order for them to, again, get that code out to their new code out to their customers, and for them to be able to enjoy those capabilities. If you want to learn a little bit more about the data, we did publish a report last year, late last year, and we call it the 2020 State of Software Delivery. So this gives you some of the information I showed you. It also goes into a little bit about how you can benchmark your teams, or at least gives you some baselines that we kind of deemed as, or some of the metrics that we feel folks can use as a baseline to build their own kind of metric, right? So every company, every team develops software differently, and this capability or this report can kind of walk you through how you can become a high-performing team as it relates to continuous delivery. So with CircleCi, it comes in 2 flavors, right? The cloud version is the OG or the original version of the platform, and then we actually have invested quite a bit of resources and money into building out or bringing our what we call a server version of the system, and this is for companies or organizations or teams that have compliancy regulatory issues, right, or requirements, and they need to install or operate their platform, CICD platforms on-prem. We have an offering for you. So, it's called Server. We've, again, invested quite a bit of resources into creating a parity between the cloud and server. Just recently, we released a new version of the server product that actually brings it closer to parity or in line, more aligned with the cloud platform. But again, the cloud platform is great for teams who don't really need to run an on-prem service. And that's why you're seeing those numbers that I showed you earlier, is because developers, right, can focus on what's really important to them, which is their code, and not have to worry about all the infrastructure and all the other essentials that come with managing your own CICD platforms locally, right? With CircleCi, you can just pretty much connect your code repo, and your developers are up and running just that easy, right? And once they start committing and pushing their code upstream, CircleCi is monitoring those repositories and then kicking off. And this is the cloud version, by the way. This also works the same way in the server, but you then have to manage all of your resources. So that would mean if you have your own data center, you can pretty much install this on-prem and then run your CircleCi platform, no different than any other on-prem type CI/CD solution. But again, right, the capabilities are the same. We're even working on systems so that you can run in a hybrid model, which is maybe you want to run on CircleCi Cloud and then have some workloads running, on a private server instance in your infrastructure. So yeah, talking about developers and the advantages of CircleCi Cloud, right? The average cost of the developer we calculate to be about $1.42 or $1.42. And then when you kind of take a look at using CircleCi services, the cost of running your workloads on our system is essentially less than a penny, right? So again, the savings is there because the developers can focus on the code. They don't have to worry about infrastructure. If their CI/CD platform goes down, they don't have to worry about fixing it, right? It's all about just writing code, pushing it, running it through the automation, and then seeing the results and the feedback that comes from it. So with CircleCi, these are some of the reasons why we have such great performance and scale. Is we focus a lot on the build optimizations and offer up a lot of advice to our customers on how they can build efficient pipelines. And the reason why the pipelines, some of the reasons why the pipelines are efficient is because we provide, the platform provides scale capabilities across many facets of CICD, the CICD process. So what I mean by that is, we have things such as parallel jobs, so you can run jobs in parallel instead of a sequential, blocking type execution. We enable easy or effortless test splitting capabilities, right? And then configurable resources. So if you need more CPU, if your build needs CPU, more RAM, we have the capabilities to enable you to, level up your compute node capacities very easily, right? With just a few lines of text in your configuration file, which I'll show a demo here shortly. And then finally, right, we're enabling you to customize your caching. So that means, at least leverage caching. And that speeds up builds, right? So the idea behind caching is you just download it once and then update only the things that have changed since the last build. So again, right, these are just a couple elements that we kind of provide in the platform to help with the optimization of CI/CD pipelines. And here's just some quick, easy benefits, right? If you're going to run, you're using CircleCi, the developer has basically a self-serve type capability, right? You always save time if you don't have to bother anyone for permission to do something or ask for access to things. We also provide a configuration as code kind of mantra or system where, the developers can create their pipelines using our YAML syntax. And then we provide also this SSH into builds, which helps developers debug their pipelines instead of having to, again, right, go and ask for access to a system where their builds are failing. The developer can just go in, rerun that build, and just tell it, hey, leave that build hanging and running with SSH, so they can just, connect to that resource, debug in real time in the environment where it failed, and then hopefully fix that as quickly as possible. And that's why you're seeing, again, those numbers where, like, we have what we call mean time to recovery, which is the time from when a failure occurs to when it is fixed. So that means if a build fails, the developers are fixing things. And I believe, don't quote me on this exact, but I believe we're somewhere under the 10-minute mark and on average, right? So that's pretty amazing that developers, and that's all due to the part that they have this self-serve capability, right? They're not hindered by protocols or anything that most companies actually operate under. And then, right, you have the clean containers, so that means you have a sanitized environment every time you build. And then we also take security very, very seriously. So we have this concept of context where you can create pipelines that mask security type credentials or tokens or secrets, right? And they're stored in our system, secure at rest and then in flight. And then when the build time environment needs it, it's masked by an environment variable, right? So again, you can build pipelines without having in obscurity, or the secrets are obscured so that folks can actually see what's happening, right? And not expose any sensitive data. And then we have the per project images, which just means if you're leveraging like a Docker image, or even if you're using a virtual machine, you can tell if you want to use Ubuntu or CentOS, operating systems, or even Windows. It's a very robust system that helps developers and teams get their software out there as quickly as possible. As I mentioned earlier, we take security very, very seriously. These are some of the compliancy and certifications that we have. The one I'm most proud of is the FedRAMP certification. This enables federal government employees to go ahead and basically buy us right off the shelf without having to get any approvals through procurement or anything. We've already been vetted by the federal government, and we have tons of customers in the public space using CircleCi to build their software. Some of the security features, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not going to go through all of these because really don't need to, But some of the things that I like about the platform is, again, the environment variables, right? The secrets that are protected, the secure output and artifacts. So basically, and I'll show you in a minute or in a few minutes in a demo that, we do have an output so people can see what's happening in the system. But anything that's secret or sensitive is basically, masked. So again, you can debug and, figure out what's happening with your builds if you're having failures without exposing things to people who are not authenticated or need that access, right? Or unauthorized, I'm sorry. So yeah, the secrets are protected all the way around.
Hey, Angel,
Yes.
as we're approaching the end of this particular session, just want to go through some of those examples in the demo. I also want to bring up a question that someone was asking about the cost of service of implementing CircleCi as a cloud-native continuous integration tool to monitor and oversee setup, security, and maintenance. I know there's a lot of terms in there. Maybe you could comment on that as we seek to finish up, and also maybe comment on that question from the FAA.
Yeah. So what was the question again? I'm sorry.
It's more like, how do you, can CircleCi, basically work as like to oversee everything, I believe, and I'll send a follow-up note, in terms of overseeing setup, security, maintenance of all of your various instances. And if that's not clear, then we'll take it offline.
Yeah. So the platform has been vetted with FedRAMP. I want to say low. So we have, that means you do have an ATO or authority to operate, but at a certain level. So within the federal government, there's different levels. I believe depending on the sensitivity of your workloads, right? But we should cover, or the FedRAMP should cover us for a good bulk of the stuff folks are doing.
So what I think we'll do on that is you go through this, and is I'll send a separate note so we can follow up specifically with Ted.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. So real quick, I want to jump on. How much time do I have left, Ron?
A few more minutes. So if we get right to the demo, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I'm going to jump into just again going to talk about developers going fast, confidently, reliably. I'll just jump over CICD. I think everybody here knows what that is, but there was a few things I wanted to jump on. Okay, so deployments, right? So we all know that one of the biggest things with this automation is getting that software out there as quickly as possible without any human intervention. And that's what we're talking about, continuous deployment. Always, right? We want this happy path deployment. Most of the time we get it, right? We're deploying the code and it's on the server, but once it's on the server and it's deployed, that's not the end of it, right? Pre-deploy results can be deceptive because if we have that happy path deployment, that's great, but the post-deployment bits are where that kind of bite us. And the results are deceptive, right? Because deployments fail unexpectedly all the time. If you're in this business, you know this, and you experience this quite often. So when something fails, it's, again, usually in the post-deployment phase. And a lot of times the reasons for this are, right, defective configuration, integration faults, and this is the more common one where you have invalid credentials and authentication. So the concept here that I'm going to show you is, right, once things are deployed, you want to perform some sort of test, right? Make sure that your system has been deployed properly, and that your builds are actually functioning as designed once those deployments occur. So what I'm going to do now is just jump into a demo, like I said earlier. What I'm showing you is, here is some code. I'm just going to demonstrate real quickly how this works for a developer. So let's say I'm a developer. I'm writing some code. I'm going to now in a position to update the shared repository. So for continuous integration, this is how we would operate. For this demo, I'm just going to update the version number, as that'll be our code change just to simulate that. Then I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick git commit, or let's look at status to make sure. So I'm just checking, right? I have changed the file, the app.js file. So I'm going to do a git commit and then give it a message, updated version. So now I have this commit. What did I do? Forgot the app, the file name. So I'll just quickly. Now we have committed to change. Now I can do basically now I'm going to push this upstream, and this is where CircleCi, right? The code has changed where CircleCi is monitoring, which is here. This is the CircleCi dashboard, and a few seconds from now we're going to see that CircleCi detected that change. Again, right? This is based in our cloud. It's performing or executing in our cloud, where we take care of that infrastructure, the networking, the electricity, the platform, the CICD capabilities. And you can see I'm running a few jobs here. One of the things that I'm doing here is running some unit tests. I'm scanning the application for security, right? Doing some security scans on it using Sneak. And we have some green scans there. I'm also creating a continuous, a Kubernetes cluster on DigitalOcean. So the reason I'm doing this is to show that, using Terraform and code, I'm creating a new cluster every time I deploy. And the idea there is to basically simulate an environment where you're going to deploy to, right? So if you're deploying to production, by the way, I'm just using DigitalOcean because as a developer, it's a simple way, but you can use, Amazon, Google, whatever cloud provider you want to do this work. And as you can see, I created a Docker image, which was also scanned by Sneak, right? So once you have a clean, Docker container, then it gets deployed to the Kubernetes cluster, and this is the job that does that. Once that's done, the next job here is going to be to smoke test. So remember when I was talking about, hey, happy path, everything gets deployed, but then everything falls apart post deployment. This right here has deployed our new application, and if we look using Terraform again, but if we look at the final IP address that was created, right? So I created a whole new cluster, network, load balance, all that good stuff. If we open a new browser, we should see our application up and running, which is going to be smoke tested by an automated test. And here's that version 8 that I updated. So if we go back, this is what the system had built for us, a Kubernetes cluster on DigitalOcean. And then if we go back to our pipeline, we can see that our smoke test, right, is tested, and it's doing some simple things like, hey, am I getting an OK200 from the service, right? And it passed all that IP address, right, automatically through to my pipeline. And then finally, I'm just doing a simple test of some text, right, on the web page, which is all this stuff here. And finally, the cool thing about this is we have a manual approval process. So normally I wouldn't have this here, but what this does is, have a human intervention. So if you need to kind of review things before things either get deployed, or if you want to destroy the infrastructure that we created, you just basically go into the dashboard, check things out, and then you automatically click approve, and then this will kick off a destroy command, which will destroy all of our awesome infrastructure that we created on DigitalOcean. And basically that's it, right? So again, the idea here is for you to test your deployments and ensure that the deployment is actually functioning, so that your teams can get a better sense of confidence in that actual release, right, of your software. And that's all I have, Ron. So quick demo. If there's any questions, happy to.
No, I think I'm going to follow up with you separately about that integration.
Yeah,
lots of things. Great. But the other thing I always like to emphasize is that everyone needs to be a developer. And even if your previous role, I don't care if you're like an IT auditor, you're a network administrator, and you're still doing that, I guarantee you that the people are going to get promoted, and where your organization is going is everyone wants to be application oriented. And so it's very powerful and mandatory that you understand these roles, you understand, and I think it was great that Angel brought up some of the security capabilities within CircleCi. These are all the things where you need to understand these tools and start embracing them. Maybe even if you're a network, create your own app that's geared for your own internal processes. Get some familiarity with these tools, share them with your programmers, your data scientists, because that's the main thing that you need to pursue more aggressively in the future. Does that make sense, Angel?
Oh, no, absolutely. I agree 100%. What's happening in the DevOps space is just that, right? So that's what DevOps is about. And now you're hearing terms like DevSecOps, right? So now they're integrating security. It has always been integrated as a concept, but the emphasis now is on security. And I'm sure you're going to start seeing Dev AI Ops, right? And there's going to be a whole combination of those acronyms where there's Dev prefixing and then Ops at the end, right? So yeah.
And we heard that already in the course that talk about FinOps, SecOps. We've done previous events about AI Ops. There's DevOps, there's DevSecOps. I lose track of all these acronyms, but putting aside the abbreviation, this is what's happening. It's an application data-centric world. It is not so much a network, or it's definitely not a local area network-centric world in the future. And so you need these tools.